It looked like scenes from a disaster movie, but it really happened. Drivers and passengers of several hundred cars were stuck in a giant traffic jam on the snow-covered S7 route near Ostróda, Poland. Water from the Baltic Sea. A 16-kilometer traffic jam, hundreds of cars stuck in the cold, many of them with families with children, and no help for hours. We've been standing here for a very long time, and will probably be standing here until morning. As you can see, our cars are being buried in snow, so maybe someone will feel sorry for these people and help us somehow. Where possible, firefighters try to organize detours. But the S7 route near Ostróda became a glass trap with no way out last night. As usual, winter took the government by surprise. I just spoke to a firefighter who said that the chief of some local police force, probably in Olsztyn, is already on his way here to help. So I asked what good that would do, and I quote the firefighter said, "F that." There are lots of reports on the internet about what the situation was like. Experts also say that the services reacted too late on the S7. It was absolute chaos there, because even though Poles received alerts from the Civil Protection Headquarters before noon, no one thought about clearing snow from one of the country's main routes. Minister Dariusz Klimczak, if you are looking for someone to blame for the Armageddon on the S7, it is best to start with the management of the General Directorate for National Roads and Motorways in Olsztyn and the Traffic Maintenance Department. From 3 p.m. when it started until the traffic jam before Ostróda, which began before 7 p.m., there was not a single snowplow in the direction of Gdańsk. As a result, one truck immobilized by snow blocked traffic on the entire route, and that's bad news for other truck drivers. Together with Minister Klimczak, we have also decided to carry out checks in connection with this situation, with increased checks on trucks traveling on expressways and national roads. This may not be enough, as snow is still falling, and the situation is repeating itself on other roads in the center and north of the country. But that's not all. On the A4 towards Zgorzelec, there was a pileup involving 6 cars, a truck, and a bus, hence the government's appeal to Poles to avoid unnecessary travel. At the same time, we hear that the services responded correctly and that the government is not skimping on the safety of Poles. The General Directorate for National Roads and Motorways spread 6 times more salt on the roads than usual, so I appeal to those who want to stir up emotions and sow anxiety that they are wrong. However, history shows that during Donald Tusk's rule in crisis situations, those who warned were right and the authorities were wrong. The forecasts are not overly alarming. A few days after Donald Tusk's press conference, one of the worst floods in Polish history occurred, and the government has still not dealt with its aftermath. This is not the first time. The situation was similar after the floods in 2010, when residents of flooded areas complained about the lack of state aid. I didn't elect your mayor. Tusk's government has also repeatedly lost an unequal battle with snow. This requires special snowblowers that spit the snow over the drifts. The snowblower that the General Directorate for National Roads and Motorways wanted to use for snow removal broke down, and another one is being brought in. The disarming honesty of Elżbieta Bieńkowska, who as Polish Minister of Infrastructure in Tusk's government commented on the paralysis of the railways caused by icing of the traction network, has also gone down in history. All you can say to passengers is, sorry, this is the climate we have, unfortunately. No humility, no reflection, no conclusions for the future. In the coming hours, we will be dealing with a situation that will be changeable. This is what the Institute of Meteorology and Water Management is saying, both in terms of the situation and changes in the weather, but also in terms of the hydrological situation. Although warnings of possible flooding had already been issued 3 days earlier, it was only at the last minute that a flood alert was announced in Elbląg. Frombork and Suchacz also came close to being flooded. Certain events can simply be predicted, but this government simply does not have the ability to predict what will happen, because they are failures who are unable to deal with the simplest matters, and thus lead to dangers that affect thousands of Polish people. Subsequent conferences and crisis teams organized in front of cameras, such as yesterday's at 7 p.m. or today's at 4 p.m., may improve the government's image somewhat. A little heat would be useful here and there, because the temperature and weather have played a nasty trick on many Poles, but they will not ensure the safety of Poles. All they had to do was send snowplows and salt spreaders 10 hours ago, and it wouldn't have happened, and that's it. Alert journalists from a German-Swiss website sniffed out a scandal in photos from the Polish president's visit to soldiers guarding the border with Belarus. They spotted several maps. On the wall, a map of the Podlaskie voivodeship. On the table, a staff map. Perhaps for Onet journalists, the Podlaskie voivodeship is simply too far from the German border. So this is actually some kind of secret map. They are unfamiliar with these areas and may have just learned that the Eastern Wall even exists. But seriously, it's very sad that the president is being accused of something like this, of publishing maps that are normally on display. From there, it was a short step for the authors of Onet to accuse the president and the National Security Bureau of allegedly revealing secrets about the Polish border with Belarus. This primarily made the authors of this publication look ridiculous. I would like to point out a certain restraint in the reaction of Donald Tusk's government ministers, who usually have no qualms about attacking Karol Nawrocki. This time, they did not join in the charge. After the publication of the Onet article, various concerned experts came forward. Several of them even held the rank of general. One would have to be completely ignorant of the nature of operational plans to allow such photos to be taken in an operating room, let alone publish them. The question is, where did the former head of the Polish National Security Bureau, General Koziej, get such knowledge? The same man who during the Tusk-Putin reset met with the head of the Russian Federal Security Service to chat about, among other things, national strategic planning and reviews of the security systems of Poland and Russia. Incidentally, this information is still available on the National Security Bureau's website from the time when Stanisław Koziej was in charge of the office. The current head of the National Security Bureau also reacted to the alleged Onet scandal. The best maps of border defense are on Instagram from 7 days ago, so they're fresh and of good quality. I recommend Onet. Professor Sławomir Cęckiewicz posted photos from a few days ago showing the Polish Prime Minister and the head of the Ministry of Internal Affairs posing with military maps. You don't have to be an expert to see in the German portal's article, apart from hypocrisy, an attempt to return to the industry of contempt, known from the times of Donald Tusk's first government. Today there are different media. Today there is the internet, and I think that voters will not fall for such a trick, as some did during Lech Kaczyński's presidency, and this industry of contempt will simply not work for the civic platform. Interestingly, the same website did not notice nearly 60 balloons that flew into Poland on Christmas Eve, and earlier saw no problem with the photos posted by Infrastructure Minister Dariusz Klimczak from his visit to the control center of the strategic railway station in Sędziszów. This included a photo showing what the surveillance cameras were showing. If there is an order, and now there is a political order to attack Polish President Nawrocki, then the mainstream media will do so. And I think that there is no delving into the substance here, whether they wanted to find the balloons earlier or whether they were supposed to criticize Minister Klimczak. No. Just in case, because unfortunately I already know how Minister Żurek operates. Just in case, I would just like to remind him, Minister, the President of Poland is not subject to the jurisdiction of Polish criminal courts. He has so-called complete formal immunity. So if you happen to think of something stupid, you must refer only to the state tribunal. It will not be easy. This does not mean that the authorities and the media under their control, in accordance with the Prime Minister's order to apply the law as Donald Tusk understands it, will not continue to attack the Polish president. The year 2025 brought the world a new beginning and a new order. Donald Trump began his second term in the White House, promising to fulfill his slogan, "Make America Great Again," and take active steps to end global conflicts, from rivalry with China, through the Middle East and Ukraine, to Europe and Africa. U.S. policy set the course of events, a summary of what happened in the world in a nutshell. The year 2025 begins with a symbolic moment.
I, Donald John Trump,
Donald Trump is sworn in for a second term, promising to rebuild the United States position and implement the Make America Great Again program. The first front is the rivalry with China. The trade war and economic tensions escalate, and Beijing conducts the largest maneuvers in history around Taiwan. The year ends without an agreement, but with a clear signal. The U.S.-China conflict is becoming the axis of global rivalry. War criminals Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un appear at a military parade in Beijing. This is an image of a world increasingly divided into two rival blocs. In the Middle East, the war in Gaza enters a decisive phase. After negotiations involving the U.S., a fragile truce is reached between Israel and Hamas. Hostages abducted in 2023 return home. Despite this, the region is on the brink of a wider conflict, following attacks by the Houthis and tensions surrounding Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. bombs Iranian nuclear facilities for the first time in history. The escalation is halted, at least for now, although the situation in the Middle East remains uncertain. In Europe, the war in Ukraine is entering a new phase. Combat drones are playing a decisive role on the front lines. At the initiative of the United States, advanced peace negotiations are beginning, and European countries are accelerating their armament efforts in preparation for a revision of U.S. policy toward the old continent. In Africa, Sudan is plunging into a humanitarian crisis. Millions of people are without help. In Nigeria, Christians are being killed by Islamic terrorists. Wars in the Sahel region are raising the specter of another migration crisis. Hence, this symbol of continuity is not without significance. The Catholic Church has a new pope. It is a sign of hope in a world full of tensions, which is entering another divided year, ready for battle, and with a key question: will diplomacy prove stronger than weapons? Let's take a look at how some of the first countries in the world celebrated the arrival of 2026. Turkey was the first country in Europe to welcome the new year.